Everything I just said sounds like a rant almost, but it wasn't. And I know it's easier said than done, but with the right resources and the will to do it, that is when tech will be at its highest point. 64 cores, 5 gigahertz. But does anyone even care? Okay, yes, that is an exaggeration because at that level, every last performance statistic makes a huge difference. But that doesn't change the fact that even consumer grade tech marketing is getting slightly out of hand, with either very little or too much information about aspects that honestly most couldn't be less concerned about. Both of which, by the way, can be very misleading. So, today, let's find out what the average consumers have to say. Just like you need to find out about today's sponsor. No, I don't. I don't have one. I believe there were three key takeaways from these discussions. The first being that there's an often overlooked difference between knowing and caring about specifications. If you don't know the specs of your device, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want it to perform well and that you don't want to have a good user experience overall. But it's also just another thing if you don't know that you care about specs, if that makes any sense. Because if everything already does run smoothly and if you're already having a good user experience, then you're never actively thinking about the specs that your device has. And that is when tech will be at its highest point. In my opinion, when you never have to think about what device you're using and it just runs fluidly. But that point is going to be quite hard to reach because of the software. Which brings me on to the next point, which is software optimization. Look, I know we all want better software, more features, and we want it to run faster. But have you ever considered the hardware that you're using? Well, as it stands, most of us aren't using the most up-to-date hardware, which by the way is a good thing because your gadgets last longer than you probably think they do. But it does cause quite a few hiccups when it comes to software. As more features get added, your browser, the websites that you use, and even the operating system does start to slow down, and it's not the hardware that's at fault. It's the lack of optimization with the older hardware that you're currently using. I know I'm not the first person to talk about this, but the issue does result in a lot more e-waste when people are throwing out gadgets that think have become slower when it's actually the software at fault. Which is why I think developers and companies need to have optimization higher up on the list rather than just keeping on adding features and making it run well on the newest hardware, because that hardware isn't going to stay new for very long. And I can't emphasize this enough, but almost every single issue that even I've come across is due to the lack of software optimization. And I know it's easier said than done, but with the right resources and the will to do it, I don't know, just saying. What is relatively easier, however, and I know I've been saying this a lot, but increasing the emphasis on the user experience from the ground up and especially in the marketing. Tech marketing these days, as I said before, is just this product is 3.5 times faster than the last and you should go ahead and buy it. But does it really affect the user experience is what the people want and need to know. And I don't mean to be a fanboy here, but Apple, even though they don't explicitly state each and every spec of their device, they do speak relatively more about the user experience, which, as I said, is more important and it does make a bigger difference. Speaking just about the user experience, however, isn't very beneficial when you know nothing about the specifications, which is why striking a balance is very important. For which I think specs should be quantified. I've seen Intel and AMD do this, but not many other companies. With graphics card and CPUs, in the keynotes, people are always told how many frames per second the device is able to get for different games so that they can compare it to other devices and have a good idea of both the user experience and the specifications. But that isn't always very actively done in the marketing. It's more prominent in the keynotes, which the average consumers don't always watch. It's mostly the people who are into tech and are really interested about the specifications of the device. So I think more companies should adopt the same and quantify the specifications that they're talking about so that we have a good idea of both the user experience and the specs. Also, while you're on it, just please bundle in some better naming for your products because it solves half the problem when your A line is better than your B line and that's easier to understand. Now that I look at it, everything I just said sounds like a rant almost, but it wasn't. I was just trying to make a point about what I observed. And also, this video wasn't very focused on it, but almost everything I said kind of does apply to phones and mobile devices as well. And just as a conclusion, the fact that someone doesn't know anything about their device doesn't mean that they're not affected by the experience. I'm pretty sure you can quote me on that. Okay, so we have a few everyday consumers here use tech just to get work done. So let's see what their current experience is like, if they're happy with the devices that they use, and if performance statistics really do make a difference to them. So, what devices are you currently using, and do you know anything about them in terms of specifications?
I use a laptop and an Android phone. I have no clue about the specifications.
Galaxy S10.
So I am using a Samsung smartphone and a Acer laptop. I use them for my daily activities. I use my
So,
smartphone.
do you do any very intensive work on any of them?
I don't really do very intensive work on them as I don't think they could handle it.
Describe your general experience in terms of how well and easily everything runs and the apps you use.
It's very smooth unless and until I keep so many applications open.
Whenever I use Meet and Zoom, it's get really the laptop gets really loaded and it doesn't work
Laggy.
properly.
It runs pretty well. Sometimes I have to reboot it every once a week or so. But
So do you
it's
mind
fine
doing that?
in general.
Do you mind doing that? Does that like irritate you, or are you just fine with it and you don't care?
Considering I don't have an option, no, I'm not irritated by that.
So do you wish you had a more powerful system to work with then?
No, not really.
That just contradicts what you said before.
Yes, I wish I could have a powerful system because it's getting very laggy whenever I use Google Meet.
Yes, I really want to do my work as fast as possible.
So do you do most of your work in a browser or in apps on the operating system?
Browser.
Yes, I do most of my tasks in the browser.
I use Chrome.
How many tasks do you do at like once on your laptop, let's say?
Not more than 3.
If you could upgrade only one thing about your laptop, what would you upgrade?
I would upgrade my RAM as it would help me for multitasking.
Okay, so you don't know your specifications, but you still want it to be a faster experience.
Yes, of course.
My laptop is a Core i5 10th gen.
So, do you have anything else to say?
No, not really.
Like and subscribe बोलना था भाई.